Welcome to episode number 2 of Escape Comfort Outdoors podcast. Let's go ahead and get this kicked off, John.
Do it, man.
So this weekend is our first weekend that we have some in-person events scheduled. So Caitlin and I hosted a hike this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So it's about 1 p.m. now, so a few hours ago. And it was good. The weather turned out all right. We had a ton of rain this week. A little bit of snow as well, but the trail was relatively dry. We were a little concerned about that, but all that went well. And tomorrow out there in your neck of the woods, John, you guys are doing some cleanup?
Yeah, man, we got a pretty amazing group of people. Wasn't sure what to expect. When you promote a trash cleanup, it's not just hands in the air, me, I'd love to join. And so, yeah, we're doing it tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., kind of up in our neck of the woods in Yakima in Washington State. And I believe there's going to be somewhere around 15 people that have signed up or told me they intend to sign up. I think we're at like 12 or 13 actual signups, but a couple extra people with the intent to come. And I'm really excited. It's an area that I love to hike. It's a beautiful spot that I bring my dogs a couple times a week. And there's just a bunch of trash out there from some losers. Taking the trucks out there, sliding all the garbage out and driving off. And so we're gonna go take a few hours and clean up as much as we can. I got the inspiration just from walking around there and trying to show everybody just like, look at what people do. Right around where you live, people do this. And a couple of the things that we saw featured some companies like on the side of mini fridges or something like that. And I'd tag them in the stories and whatnot. And they'd reach out and say, "Hey, we support this, like clean it up and we'll support you guys." And so that was pretty cool, that we got a few companies to do that. And it's very well supported. We got lunch provided from a local health food store. We obviously are going to be moving a ton. And Responsible Stewardship sent us a bunch of garbage bags, gloves for everybody, all that kind of stuff. I'm real excited for the event.
Yeah, for sure. And Responsible Stewardship is an awesome organization as well. So definitely check them out if you haven't checked them out before. I think Caitlin and I are looking to try and do a cleanup event later this month here in Ohio as well. So
nice.
We want to continue
that'll be sweet.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we're continuing to have that messaging out there to try and get things cleaned up. And on our hike today,
you guys aren't going to East Palestine or anything, are you?
No, there's a lot of cleanup over there, but
go clean that up.
No, I'm far away from that. No, but on our hike today, so we went and hiked a local trail that's just down the street from us, and it's one of our favorite little places to go. It's quiet and secluded, and you kind of have to intentionally go there in order to be there.
Cool.
And so it's generally a really clean place. So when you're walking around, there's no trash pickup in that park for the most part.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing.
There's nothing better than going to a trail system. My dogs and I went to a new spot yesterday, but nothing better than going to a spot and it already being clean, right? That either means that you've got some great people that make sure they take care of the place that they're in, or you just have great people that aren't making any messes, right? I rarely get to go to a spot where I see absolutely nothing. And companies that, really instill that importance are awesome. Highlander, we do a great job when we go out and do those things, making sure that, I'm always obviously the last person on the trail, every single day. And so I get to see it firsthand. And by the time it comes to me, there's nothing to pick up. And it's really cool. And it's cool to, see that there's so many people kind of rallying behind the idea and the cause of, cleaning up our public land and making an effort to put some time into cleaning it up. So it's awesome. It's amazing.
For sure. Yeah. So when we went through that park today, there was one piece of trash, one spot that there was a couple pieces of trash as we went by. Caitlin nabbed them real quick. So back to net zero in that trail.
Perfect. and that's what it takes though, right? Like it takes that pick up a couple pieces every time you go, right? Like it makes the payload way less intense, right? Like today, this area that I'm going to, it's so bad that we're not going to be able to do everything today, right? But this little start that we got right now, maybe the neighbors are going to see us doing it. Maybe some people will see online that we did something like this, and hopefully it inspires someone else to even just pick up one piece of trash on their walk, right? Lots of students live nearby us for the medical school that's here that my wife goes to. And I see lots of them walking up and down the roads every day, and imagine how beautiful this place would be if everybody just nabbed one piece every single time they went. And that's what
Yep.
we're kind of trying to make happen this weekend, right? Like everybody that's coming up, obviously we're going to be grabbing more than one piece of trash, but yeah, it's gonna be a doozy of a day. But just something like this, I was amazed at how many people were like, "Hey, I want to help. I want to do something like that." And hopefully, yeah, people keep doing it.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing the photos from. So there's already some photos and videos that I know you posted on your Instagram. I think there's some on the company Instagram as well. Um, so if you haven't seen those, check those out. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you post on, kind of as you guys go through too. It's gonna be a big impact. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're gonna see. I have some guys on my rugby team coming. I have some people we don't know coming. I have some people that I work with in my personal training business coming out. Of all ages, guys, gals, everybody. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to be a wide dynamic of people. And I'm excited to kind of see how everybody holds up, and how much we can get done throughout that.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. Looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, man.
So changing gears outside of some of the events that we have going on, and that we're working towards. So one point of conversation that I wanted to talk through a little bit today is we're heading around to the summer. Thankfully, we're coming out of the deep freeze, at least here in Ohio we are. We had a little bit of snow yesterday, but it's Ohio, so that's normal. But now that we're heading out of that kind of cold season and heading into spring and summer, the national park attendance is going to start ramping up. So I saw this week, the crowds can be crazy for sure.
Wow.
And I saw this week they started, the national parks started posting about their delayed entry passes. Have you seen anything on those?
I just briefly heard about it. My wife mentioned it in conversation. I haven't really read anything about it, but I am excited and nervous to hear exactly what it is. I'm all for regulating the traffic that goes through the parks in terms of volume, because some of these national parks, especially out where I live, get pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
Rainier, Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, Crater Lake, all that kind of stuff. And so it'll be nice to be able to kind of regulate the amount of people that'll be in. But let's hear a little bit more about it before I give my 2 cents.
Well, so it's definitely been a controversial topic for a while. I think they started delayed entry like 2020, like during the COVID time, I think, because so many people were trying to find ways to get outside. So they started going to the national parks more than they had, is kind of my understanding of what happened. And so they started implementing delayed entry. So the idea being that and each national park's a little bit different, but for most of them, it is if you enter between the times of 9 a.m. and 2 p.m., you have to have an entry pass to be able to get in and you pick a time frame, right? So it's like, hey, 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10, 10 to 10:30, whatever it is. And you choose your time frame that you want. And that way they only allot a certain quantity of passes for that time block, with the intent, like you said, cutting down traffic. And so if you come later in the afternoon, if you come at 3 or 4 o'clock, you don't have to worry about the delayed entry. You're just able to go in. And if you come before 9 a.m., you're able to just go in. And so, we've been trying to hit as many national parks as we can. Every year we're hitting at least one.
Oh, yeah.
One new one that we haven't been to. I guess I should be very specific. Last year was Glacier National Park, but we were there so late into the season, delayed entry was no longer a thing because it was getting cold.
Yeah, that was good. That was still a pretty wicked time of year that you guys went, though. It was honestly, it's a good time to be there. It's like right before it gets pretty crazy snowy, like everything's still like picture perfect when you're up there, you get a little foggy and all that stuff as you get higher into Glacier, but
yeah, and it turned out perfect. Yeah, it turned out perfect. We wound up with some great views, and it wasn't too cloudy or wicked. There were some times, I believe, that week, not the days that we wound up being there, but some snow went through the area and dropped some snow up at the tops of the mountains.
Did you guys see any wildlife while you were up in the park?
Oh, for sure.
I was gonna say, didn't you guys see like some mountain goats or something like that?
Yeah. So this is actually a cool story. So there were three of us. So me, Caitlin, and Jen, one of our coaches.
Yeah.
We were all off doing a hike. We went up to Grinnell Glacier, and so that hike is on kind of a ridge line sort of thing. It's not really the ridge line, but it's a pretty narrow path, right? So it's kind of a sheer drop on one side, and the other side's kind of straight up. And so you're going up and you're doing that trail. And as we went up there, we saw a mountain goat, and he was just kind of hanging out, and he was a little bit off the trail. So we went by and we were able to go. We got up to the glacier pools and everything, got some awesome photos, some videos and so forth up there. And then on our way back down, we wound up behind him, and he was on the trail going the same direction as us, nice and slow.
Yeah.
So we named him George. So fun fact, there is a George blanket that's available on our website if anyone wants to purchase one.
Awesome. And
there's a picture of George on that blanket.
I love it.
But yeah, we followed him for a long time. And, with national parks, there's tons of wildlife out there. One thing that we see all the time, you see it on social media, you see it on the news, people getting gored and attacked by animals and everything else because they're getting too close.
Of Yellowstone, man.
Yeah.
Turons.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. You got to stay away from those animals. They're wild animals. They don't want you near them. So, we followed George probably. We were a decent way away from him. We had to be probably a solid 50 yards away from him or so. And we were being nice and loud, so he knew we were there, so we didn't scare him or something. But he just didn't care.
Yeah, and he's like, this is my trail. It's not your trail. You'll take this at my speed.
Yeah, he had zero interest in us, zero interest in getting out of our way. Just in general, zero interest.
It's a pretty cool moment, though.
Yeah, we're yelling at him, get off the trail. He eventually got up and onto a rock, kind of a sheer rock up over the trail. And at that point we felt comfortable going past him. He knew we were there. He moved out of our way. He's watching us. He's up above us. He felt safe.
Cool.
And we paid attention to his body language, but yeah, definitely very cool, a cool experience, but just keep your distance from the critters.
Yeah. They don't need any extra attention from us. Like we don't need to.
Yeah. No petting the bison.
Yeah. Don't touch any of them. Stay in your car. If you're driving, don't get out. All that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's cool that, parks are kind of regulating that. I'm kind of an early bird myself, so I'm not arriving at any national parks for the most part around 10 or 11 a.m., It's always a bright and early start. I guess the exception would be when my wife and I are like traveling cross country and stuff like that. When we're stopping on national parks, just kind of along a drive and stuff like that. We're going to take a trip down to California in May, and we're going to hit everything. We're going to try to hit everything through Utah all the way down until we get to LA. So we'll hit Moab and Arches and Zion and Bryce and all that kind of stuff. And so hopefully
that'd be awesome.
We'll be able to time it in a good way to where we can kind of get there early in the mornings and get in, get out, and all that stuff before it gets too crazy. Yeah,
those are definitely some parks that I'd like to see at some point.
They're amazing. I lived in
Bryce. I've not made it to that
for Bryce Canyon for about 4 months. I lived there in college.
That's awesome.
Yeah, doing some geology work and working part-time at the lodge there to get some like free housing and all that stuff. But talk about a pretty unbelievable part of the world. It's all that little spot. There's not a lot of other places that you'll ever go that look like that strip right from Moab and Arches all the way down through the Grand Canyon and Arizona's got some pretty wicked stuff that I've never explored. Lake Powell area, all that sort of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and if you ever wind up near Tucson, there's Saguaro National Park over there too.
Yeah.
That's a wild one.
It's where It's weird. No pun intended, right? I mean, that's the true
Yeah.
Wild West right there, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some big old cacti.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, so going back to the timed entry passes, the one big change that I was reading on is Rocky Mountain National Park is one that has definitely had timed entry passes for probably 4 years at this point. Might even be longer. Again, back to like COVID time. But this year they've now launched, there's 2 separate passes. So in the past, you got a timed entry pass. Once you got your timed entry pass, you can go anywhere in the park. You're good to go, within your time. So, you can enter during your time slot. So have you ever been to Rocky Mountain National Park?
No.
So as you go in, kind of the main entrance, there's one road that goes up and over Rocky Mountain National Park. It goes over the mountains and drops over onto the west side of. So
kind of like
sorry,
Glacier, where you go up the going to the Sun Road and drop into Canada and all that.
Right, and so it kind of goes up and over the mountains. The same thing happens in Rocky Mountain National Park, but off of that, there's another road that goes down and hits a bunch of glacial lakes.
Nice.
And there's some campgrounds and things like that over on that side. And that's called, that's the big lake that's over there that is highly photographed is called Bear Lake. And so there's that Bear Lake jog that's off to the side of that kind of that main road that goes up and over the mountains. They have added so there's one delayed entry pass that will let you go up and over and you can go and do all those things. But if you want to go over to Bear Lake, you have to have a special pass that is separate from the kind of that normal pass. And they're calling it the plus pass or something like that, delayed entry plus. So I'm interested to see what that winds up doing and what the feedback winds up being. I can tell you Bear Lake is a bear, pun intended, to try and find a place to park. And it's a madhouse. So I'm curious if what they're doing there is going to wind up making an impact on that. But they've even on that particular one, in order to get into Bear Lake, delayed entry starts at 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So it's not even 9. It is 5 a.m. They start delayed entry for Bear Lake.
That's everybody. Everyone coming to that park just getting in a time slot. That's wild. I mean, in all reality, dude, you got to kind of gauge it based on that foot traffic, right? If you have such an influx of people coming in that you have no parking for it, like proper parking for it, you get that many people on, and you're going to start. I hate to say it, but I feel like you're going to start damaging the land around it with just so much foot traffic. You're going to, of course, have some of those people are going to be, crappy people that come in and leave stuff that they brought. And it's just, eventually you're going to have to, it's just like any other thing that you're trying to control the influx on, right? Like hunting, you can up the tags if the animal population is getting out of control. You lower the amount of tags you give when it's getting a little scarce, right? And same kind of thing here. If it's getting too populated, we got to regulate that. Otherwise, it's not going to stay the way it is for very long.
Yeah. Well, and it just winds up being frustrating for everyone, right?
Right. Like nobody, we don't go to national parks like we go to, amusement parks. We don't go there to stand in line. We're not trying to be there to just sit in our cars and wait and doing all these things. We're going to these places to explore and enjoy nature, and it's really hard to do that from the back seat of a pickup truck. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. Yeah, if you get the chance to go out there, you got to check that one out. That's
for sure,
that's an awesome national park. So
yeah, well, obviously, eventually we're hoping to hit as many or everything we can. We have a national park pass, so it's easy to kind of mosey around anywhere we want to. It's just a matter of getting there. Living in the Pacific Northwest, you're a long way from a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I feel it.
But
I feel it.
At the same time, though, if you're gonna be somewhere that has national parks, that West and Northwest is a pretty unbelievable place to be. You name any of the really, really impressive national parks in terms of mountains and stuff like that. Yosemite, Glacier, Yellowstone, Cascades National Park, all that, Mount Rainier, Crater Lake. The list goes on and on and on.
That's all up by you.
It's pretty amazing. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, we've got one, Cuyahoga Valley National Park. That's what we got here in Ohio.
Let's go,
Um,
dude. At least you got something.
we got something. We got something. Much more than what most of the eastern United States can say, because most
Right.
of the national parks are west
Yeah.
for just by nature of the landscape.
Yeah. It's
There's
just
a
the way she goes. Thank goodness for all the floods and all the melted ice to make this all cool and unique.
absolutely. Yeah, the other place that I want to try and get at some point is up to Alaska. Some of the national parks that are up there.
Dude.
I mean, the national parks up there are the size of a state.
Right. I know it's unbelievable. I lived in Alaska for a short period. I wasn't really in the beautiful, giant mountainous part of Alaska. I was in Bristol Bay on a fishing boat, all that stuff. But yeah, like you said, I have buddies that have lived in Alaska. I have a couple of my clients that are some high school kids that compete in the national team skiing. And so they'll go to Alaska for a skiing event and come back, and I'll see all the photos and be like, dang, dude, I got to get myself up there. Not,
Right?
not with work, up there with some free time to actually explore, the last untouched place of the US. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of untouched space up there for sure,
Yeah.
and a lot of critters. No
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to pet the grizzlies.
Yeah. They're that's a whole different beast, man. That's a whole different ballgame. It,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's cool that we can kind of talk about these like national parks trips and things like that. And it's something that's like, it's a non-expensive activity that we can go do, right? Like entry to a national park is, fairly cheap for the most part. You're not
Mhm.
spending triple figures to go into a national park, right? You got to
No.
factor in food, gas money, and the entry to the park, right? And pretty much anything you're doing is going to have some sort of entry fee, or you got to pay for the meal or whatever, right? So $70 you could put towards a few beers and some chicken wings and an appetizer at Applebee's or something like that, right? You could
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
go to Applebee's once and plan an entire day in a national park with that money you just saved, right? And so
Mhm.
it's cool thing also as it gets into the warmer season is the activities that we have the opportunity to do during the warm months of the year are typically going to be your less expensive ones if you're kind of an outdoorsman, I guess, or looking to get into something like that. You don't I mean, in the winter, the stuff we go do, like yesterday, we went and saw a movie. First time we've done that in a long time, but we went and saw a movie yesterday because it's not like I could be like, hey, let's go swimming or anything like that. It's too cold for that. And so,
Yeah.
anything we want to go do that's not inside the house, we do a good job of not spending a ton of money and, just kind of being happy, kind of nailing whatever we feel like doing that day. But um, as the approach of the summer months, my wife loves to hike, right? My wife loves to, take kayak on the lake. My wife likes to go fishing. She likes, et cetera. Fill in the blank here. And so we're going to be able to go out, get good exercise, have the opportunity to try a bunch of new stuff that maybe that we haven't done. We move in a couple months. And so, I mean, opportunities galore once we move, as well.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into the warmer months and get into all the
Yeah.
outdoor activities that we got and save a little bit of money too.
Yeah, for sure. And a plug around national parks. So each national park's a little bit different in terms of entry passes and entry fees and how they all work. Here's my Cuyahoga Valley National Park plug. There is no entry pass or entry fee to get into the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Same thing with New River Gorge. Both of those you're able to enter and go through with no entry fee, no
Nice.
timed access, anything like that.
Cool.
Both of them have a lot of recreation that occurs inside of them, which is kind of neat. Mountain bike trails, hiking trails, biking trails, kayaking, whitewater river rafting, right? Like all that stuff exists in both of those national parks. So yeah, there's opportunity, like you said, there's opportunities out there to do inexpensive, family friendly, exciting things, and getting out, getting away from a screen,
Getting tan.
Yeah, getting tan.
We need to work on it, but I mean,
Yeah,
there's I'm not really a lot of negative things that you can say about it, right? Like outside of the crazy national parks that get too much foot traffic to really make it enjoyable. Like we timed it around a time of year that, like early spring, like right now is a great time to go to those places because it's still a little cold. People aren't really super excited to be there. So try to take advantage of that. And in all reality, the national park pass, you're going to hit 2 national parks with anyone else in your car in a year. You might as well just get the national park pass. You're going to save a ton of money doing it. It's fairly inexpensive as well. But it's absolutely worth the money that you would pay, if you were normally going to go into a park or two every single year. And with our national park pass, we tend to go way more often now that we can get in as often as we want, and so it's been great. As soon as the last of the snow leaves here, we're going to hit Mount Rainier National Park and do all that. And just unfortunately, a lot of the parks out in the Northwest don't allow dogs. Like Crater, or I'm not exactly sure about Crater Lake actually, but like Mount Rainier and Cascades National Park, you got no dogs, not even on leash, which is a bummer.
Yes.
That kind of
Same with
limits
Glacier.
our ability to, Glacier, yeah, just kind of limits our ability to do quite as much in those parks, just because we like to bring the dogs with us everywhere we go.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to come out and visit us because Cuyahoga Valley is kind of free game.
Yeah, well,
it's the Wild West, man.
Oh yeah, dude! I wanted to tell you about my my hiking experience yesterday. Just while we're still on the conversation of dogs and hiking. It's a pretty short story. It's just kind of funny. So yesterday, Fridays are a pretty light day for me at work. I work in the mornings till about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm off the rest of the day. So yesterday I got a couple of recommendations from some of the ladies that take my morning class, my workout class, and a couple new spots that we haven't been to with my dogs to go hiking. And so I'm like, sweet, I'm going to go check these out today. We're going to go on a nice new hike. You see a new trail. Obviously my dogs love nothing more in this entire world than off the leash in a field. They go crazy. And we turned, I didn't really look too much into the hike in terms of the length of the hike, all that kind of stuff. I hike these areas all the time. I was okay with it being a pretty long hike. I had all day to do it. And so we loaded up, we headed out, and going through some mountain bike trails, some hiking trails. It's beautiful. It's really, really nice. It's got a really good view of the Yakima Valley. We passed one person along the way, another guy with a bunch of his dogs, which was awesome. They all played for a minute. And I get about probably 4.5 miles in, maybe 4 miles in. And I look on my phone and I'm like, all right, let's see. I don't see myself heading up towards the tip of the mountain anytime soon. I'm kind of just going around it. Let's take a look and see sort of what this is all about. So I peeked and I'm like, oh, this is a 10-mile loop. So I was like, I'm going to turn around and head back to the car. So then we'll only get about 8 miles, right? Which was still a little bit longer than I was thinking what we would do. Get back to the car. I passed a mountain biker along the way. He had a pump with him, waved him by, and I get to the car, unlock my car, get the dogs some water. Where are my keys? I'm like, where are my keys?
Oh no.
And right as I'm like getting my dogs all their water and stuff, because I don't need my keys to open my door, the mountain biker guy pulls right up. And I'm like, oh, what's up, man? You didn't happen to see any keys on the trail? He's like, oh yeah, those were yours. He's like, I thought they were the mountain biker guy that was in front of me, and I figured I'd never catch him. So I like laid him across the trail, like very obvious to see. And I was like, cool, that's fine. No worries. Thank you. At least you found them. At least I know they're not gone. Roughly how far back were they? He's like, it's like the first switchback. So probably like 1.25 miles, somewhere around there. I'm like, sweet. What's a couple extra miles? Dogs will be happy to get back out there. Head down the trail. My guy doesn't really have a good gauge on miles. It's probably a little harder to determine exactly the mileage on a mountain bike. It was about 3 miles back in there. So we I probably ended up doing about 11 miles, somewhere around there. I know that math doesn't work out, but basically I had to go back, found the first switchback, no keys. It was like switchback number 5. And he laid him across the thing. Awesome. Very happy that he did that. I'm glad I found him. I was in much better spirits. And we actually found a little trail off to the side that cut off a good chunk of our hike, but still it was what turned into a nice, beautiful, good day of hiking turned into, man, was I beat. I got home, took a 2-hour nap, all that sort of stuff. And then we went to the movie and all that, but it was, man, that was turned out to be a long day of walking.
Yeah, it's a good thing you took the nap before the movie, because I'd fall asleep during the movie after that.
It was Godzilla, and it was the new Godzilla movie.
All right.
It was my wife's idea to go to it too. It was pretty funny. Unbelievable. No chance you're falling asleep during that movie. It was epic.
All right.
Highly
Noted.
recommend. That's a plug for the Godzilla movie. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, that reminds me. So we talked about, I went to Glacier National Park in September, and we did all those hikes. So the first day that we got there, we kind of had a similar experience to you. I'm an idiot, and so I'm reading this map and trying to figure out what's going on with it. And I was looking at it, I was like, oh, it's like 8 miles, and it looks like we should be able to catch the shuttle, and it brings us back here.
Mm-hmm.
Great, let's do this. And so we go and we start hiking, and epic hike, absolutely worth it. Absolutely awesome. Highline Trail, definitely recommend it.
Oh yeah.
But it takes, there's a group of structures out there. I don't remember what they call it. It's, but it's like a, it's the chalet. That's what they call it. I was going to say it's like a chalet. So it's the chalet. And so you're up there, and it's kind of overlooking the mountains. Really beautiful, really cool. But I thought that's where the shuttle went to. Not possible. There's no roads there. So your only option is to hike either back the 8 miles that we just did, or you can go 4 miles down the mountain, and it takes you to a shuttle pickup. We're like, all right, well, 4 is shorter than 8, and we did some hiking before the 8 miles. So we're probably 10 miles in by now, maybe 12. Like, we're pretty far in. And we're like, all right, let's go down the mountain. It's 4 more miles. It's at least downhill, but let's go and do this. And so there's some other folks on the trail, and they're first off, we saw a bear right in that area too. So we're sitting there watching the bear.
Cool.
From a very far distance. But we're like, all right, we need to get going. And the people there were like, yeah, since it's off season, the shuttle stops running at 5 o'clock.
Oh no.
And it is 4:30.
Oh no.
4:30, something like that. I'm like, wow, there's no way on earth that we're making it down there before the shuttles stop. It's just not possible. So when we're like, well, we got to go down. We got to get out of here. So we do the hike down the 4 miles or whatever.
Could you at least like walk the road once you got down if you wanted to?
You could. It's many miles of road to get back to the top.
I just mean as opposed to 12 miles back over the hill.
Yeah. Yep. So we got down there, and there's a parking lot down there and whatnot. And I just went and started talking to people. I was like, hey, you heading up the mountain? Cause that's where my car is.
I'll go, you drop me off and I'll come get everybody else, please.
Right. Yeah. Well, and thankfully we found a very nice couple that were like, oh yeah, we're going up there. Yeah, come on, ride with us. And so we went up to the top with them, and
cool.
It was kind of cool. It was their first time ever being in the park. And obviously we came from being up at the top of the mountain and hiked through all that. So we kind of knew things to point out to them from our journey up the mountain. So
that's awesome.
It wound up being cool. Built a little bit of community and got to connect with some folks. But yeah, it was
yeah, so it's a little bit of a scary long, how's today going to end? Like, hopefully this ends in a positive note, and it sounds like it did.
It did. It did.
But now we're
very similar, right?
Now we're kind of story stacking. That reminds me of a story when I was in New York
Love
City.
it.
My wife and I went for this hike a couple hours north of the city, up in the upstate New York mountains up there, Adirondacks, Catskills, all that kind of stuff. And we're doing, actually, I believe we were a little bit short of that. But we're same thing. It's a kind of still kind of cold, not frozen everywhere, but still kind of cold. And we go on this beautiful hike. We go to this fire tower, and I crawl on my knees up the fire tower because I'm scared of heights like that. Man-made stuff. It's man-made stuff, right? The edge of a cliff, no problem. really tall building, I'm terrified. But we go and we hike this, it's beautiful hike. And eventually we get to this part where we are on top of this like granite, like, I don't want to call it a peak, so it wasn't the top of the mountain, but the area we were at, the
Sure.
crest of the mountain. Um, and we see this really old guy coming up the other side right there. He's probably in his early 70s, maybe late 60s. He on his way up, he's like, we stop, we talk with him, everything's good. And he's like, oh no, you don't want to go down this side. You only want to go up this side. You never want to go down this side. It's so icy and slippery, like it ain't happening. So we had, we were same kind of thing. We're like, well, crap, what are we going to do? We can't go back the way we just came. It was like 7 miles in.
Mhm.
And luckily this guy knew the trails like the back of his hand. And so he's like, well, if you take a left here and you go down the yellow route or whatever, and go down here and then branch off to the right. And so we followed his directions and ended up getting back to the car pretty quickly. But we thought we were same thing, going to have to just backtrack that whole way. And oh man, that would have
Yeah.
been too terrible, bro. Too terrible.
Yeah. Well, the compounding on not wanting to turn, first off, there's the 8 miles, right?
Right.
8 miles is 8 miles. But on top of that, the bear that we're watching is right next to the trail.
Oh, okay.
So like, I don't know that I want to go back and pass this bear that's relatively close to the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just do the 4 miles and
Yeah. We'll figure out something else. We'll be all right.
live to fight another day.
Exactly.
Awesome. And going back a little bit in our conversation, we talked, well, you brought up briefly, summer activities tend to be less expensive activities, or there's a lot of less expensive activities available. So I think I was just going to bring that topic around real quick. There's a lot of things out there there's a lot of activities that you can do that cost a lot of money, right?
We do it all the time.
Whether that's physical activity or it's just I'm going out to a restaurant, right? We took Caitlin out to a nice restaurant for her birthday last weekend, something like that. That's an expensive activity to do. We don't do it often, but the outdoor activities can be expensive. Cycling is an expensive outdoor activity. Skiing is an expensive outdoor activity.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good activities that are very cost conscious, cost effective, inexpensive, right? Like hiking,
Great one. The best one is the ultimate.
running.
Yeah. It's like the on foot is the ultimate, experience in terms of cheap activity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't beat a hike for cost, and it's gentle on your body. You're just walking.
Yeah.
Right.
As a performance coach and a personal trainer, that's my cue for everybody. I mean, from new to the gym to elite athletes, right? Like, elite athletes, they can walk for extra recovery. They can do it for the ability to stay low body fat, right? And for my people that are brand new to the gym, I'm like, okay, cool. You're going to be sore from some workouts. You're going to do this, and if the main thing I need you to do is walk as much as possible, right? Because that's free calories, right? It's not impactful on your body in a bad way, and it burns a ton of calories, right? And then, for our younger kids, athletes and stuff like that, for them, I'm really just like walk and move as much as you can, be a kid, type thing, and just move around, and so hiking is one of those great activities to where you can make it harder by choosing a challenger hike or a more challenging hike. You can make it harder by wearing a heavier backpack. You can, make it a little bit longer. There's so many different ways to do it to where if you're not a conditioned hiker, cool, pick something easy, a 1 mile hike that doesn't have any elevation change, right? Or that might be a trip to the mailbox and back a couple times a day, right? But I mean, I've gotten to a point where I'm not a runner. I am not someone who can just go for a jog and like on the streets and enjoy that really. We do plenty of running and rugby and all that kind of stuff. It's a little more sprint and activity based. But recently I've been doing a lot of those, like I said, on our last podcast, like trail running, and started out on one that was way too hard and then learned my lesson learned my lesson, pick something a little bit easier, kind of ease my way into it. And now I'm at a point
Yeah.
where I can very casually, jog through the whole trail run that I'm trying to do, and I get to see these epic views that maybe I wouldn't have time to get to because I was just walking beforehand. Man, it's just endless
You know,
opportunities when it comes to being able to get around in the world on your feet.
yeah. Talking about getting to places that you normally wouldn't be able to have time to get to. That's one of the best parts of going out and riding a bike.
Yeah.
You know, multiply your speed by many times and
Like
you can cover a lot of ground.
when I used to live in Bryce Canyon National Park, there were a lot of bikers that, explore Utah and Moab. There's
Mhm.
mountain biking stuff in those national parks, like rocks that are like specifically open to mountain biking and stuff like that. But specifically
Yeah.
Bryce Canyon has this road that goes all the way up through the park to the very, very top. And you'll see Rainbow Point up there at the top of, that's kind of where you can look over the whole national park from the highest peak. It's like 9 or 10,000 feet. Um, and that's what bikers would do that every morning. I'd see a group of bikers or even one-off bikers that would just take that road all the way to the top and just sit at the top and watch the sunrise. And it's the most epic place you can watch the sunrise, maybe minus the rim. Like there's like a rim right at the Bryce Canyon National Park that you can kind of sit on and see everything as well from much lower.
Yeah.
But like watching the sunrise or the sunset from those points, I just saw lots of bikers that would mosey on up to the top, watch, see it, mosey. The way down sounds awesome. Sounds like a lot of fun when you're not actually having to pedal and you can just send it as fast as you're comfortable going.
Yep.
But the world is your oyster for your method of transportation, man. Pretty soon we're going to be flying and stuff like that. So, we got jetpacks for water, at this point now. So
Yep.
it's getting to be pretty amazing, and we have a lot of opportunities to do a lot of cool new things.
For sure.
I've been, like I said, with the runs, I've been trying to just kind of get uncomfortable and try some new things that I'm not used to doing, and it's been fun. It's been good. It's been enjoyable, and it's good to challenge yourself a little bit in different ways.
Yeah. Another piece that you said in there just a little bit ago is, you want to make it a little bit harder, get some weight, right? Put on it doesn't even have to be fancy, right? Just go get a book bag and throw some books in it, throw some rocks in it. It doesn't really
Water,
matter.
right? Bring extra water.
Yeah. Water's heavy.
This is a silly question, and I
Yeah.
probably should know this in my field of my career. But would that do anything for cycling, like adding like a weighted vest or something while you cycle? Do people do that, or is it more like increase the difficulty of the ride or stuff like that?
That's not something that is certainly prevalent.
Right. I haven't seen too many guys on the road biking or mountain biking with weighted vests.
Yeah, no, there's probably some return there someplace. I'm not sure that the juice is worth the squeeze because it's going to make you so damn hot trying to wear that thing. And
sweating.
yeah. But there are some folks that you can find some folks out there trying to do things with like ankle weights and things like that. But the best thing to do if you're looking to build endurance on a bike is to just go and find a hill or a mountain and just ride up it.
Up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
You're not talking my language there, dude.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. So you live out in Washington. Have you ever heard of a guy named Cam Haines?
Of course I know Cam Haines. Oregon
Hey, man,
native. I know Cam Haines, dude. Cam Haines is
I know.
savage.
Yeah, well, the reason why I was bringing that up, we're talking about taking weight and taking that on your hikes. So one of the things that Cam Haines does at least once a week, I think he does it pretty regularly, is he has a rock that he found on the side of the trail the one time.
Oh yeah.
And he picked it up, and it's now his rock. He has claimed this thing, and he carries it to the top of the mountain and then back down. That's his workout.
Oh my gosh.
It's not a rock. We're talking like he's putting it up on his shoulder.
It's a stone.
Yeah.
It's for
Yeah. And he weighed it at one point. I don't remember how much it weighed. I'll have to look it up, but I want to say that the weight of it is like, it's not light. It was not light. I want to say it was almost 100 pounds.
Whoa.
Like, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, 'cause I know
it
he's
was it
got
was pretty
that.
heavy.
I know he's got that mountain he runs like every day or every other day or something like that, where he goes top and down. Because
Yep.
that dude does miles every day.
Well, and he takes that rock with him.
No,
Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. We need to know this.
that's wild.
Weight
Yeah,
of
I think
Cam.
first time I ever heard about Cam Hanes was back kind of, I don't know if it was before his ultra running and all that kind of stuff, but it was his, my dad used to follow, the hunting channel on TV, and we'd read, bow hunting journals and things like that. And we'd, see a lot of stories about Cam Hanes on there. Um, he's sort of just, yeah, ultra marathon, super athlete, mega ultra bow hunter. All right, let's see it. Oh my gosh.
130 pounds.
Oh my Lord.
I
dude.
undershot it.
That's crazy. I was like, nah, no way. It's 100, dude. No way.
130 pounds.
That's crazy, dude. That guy's a freak.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Well, and his you mentioned he's a bow hunter, but his I want to say the bow tension on his bow is something stupid too that most people don't even try.
I think they're up in the 70, 80 pound range. I know like the people he hunts with, they all have a pretty good drawback. Rogan's got a 90 something pound drawback on his bow. I think at some point, maybe, I mean, feet per second, your FPS of that arrow is is one of the most important things, obviously beyond the accuracy of the shot.
Yep.
I think at some point though, once you're getting into that 65, 70 range, you're probably good to go. You probably don't need a 100-pound drawback, but to each their own. If you can, and it's stable and you can put it in the right spot, the faster the better, man.
That's what I was going to say. Shit. If you can do it, more power to you. That's awesome.
Dude, you get someone that can pull a bow back like that and they do it a lot, you're going to change the way your body is built.
Just absolutely.
That motion over and over, like in a good way, but also like make sure you're pulling with the left side too, to even out that body at least a little bit, right? Because if you just crank on that 90 with that right arm or that left arm only, it's just like a soccer player or a football kicker or a golfer, right? You got to swing a little bit the other way to even out the body. Otherwise, you can get Kenny Wampus.
Yeah, for sure. He does do a lot of weight training, so that probably helps offset that. So
for sure.
But
as long as, and in all reality, dude, once you got the money to be good to go, so where you can put the time into that sort of stuff, it's all about your recovery at that point. How well are you eating? Are you sleeping really well? Taking the right supplements? Drinking lots of water? All that sort of stuff. It's just put the pieces together.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be able to kind of do that for everybody with this. I'm hoping that with our trash cleanup this weekend, like with the food that we have provided for lunch, I'm hoping that some people will eat this food and go, this is pretty good. And I'll be like, and it's literally made of the best ingredients that you could hope for, right? It's literally, we'll give them a shout. Yeah, from a Fit Foods. Yeah, man. I mean, just hoping to get people sort of inspired to, hey, we're doing a lot of moving today. We're going to eat some healthy food. We're also doing something good for our community, and everybody hopefully will end that day feeling like a super athlete, right? Like they put in work, made their community better, and burned a ton of calories. And we're hoping to create a community of people, that want to do this on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those things. It doesn't take as much as you think to have really good activity and motion and build fitness.
Really doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really. It takes consistency. It takes, it really takes you to just be, it's been said 1,000 times, but like, if you can just be that much better than you were yesterday, right? Like if you can
1%,
if you can eat 1 less gram of sugar every day, heck yeah, right? If you can eat 1 more gram of protein every day, heck yeah, right? If you can get 1 more minute of sleep every day, heck yeah, right? Drink 1 more ounce of water every day, heck yeah, right? And if you can do that and you compound that and you do that over and over and over and over, think about where you'd be in a year, right? Like you wouldn't be the same. You wouldn't be the same human being anymore.
Yeah, there's a great, so like I was saying, 1% better every day, just 1%. There's actually a great case study for that. I'm going to connect back to cycling. So British cycling historically wasn't that great, right? Like they would have participants in major tours like Tour de France.
Yep.
Just focusing on that, they'd have riders in that event every single year, but no one was really doing anything noteworthy. Certainly weren't winning, right?
Right.
Same thing with the Olympics, right? Any of those events, they were there. They just weren't competing for those top spots.
Right.
They then brought in, I think it was the British national team, brought in a coach that was focused on marginal gains. So how can we improve your aerodynamics by 1%? How can we improve your power output by 1%? How can we improve, all these little things, 1% here, 1% there, 1% here, 1% there, and really hone in on all the little details. And that wound up translating to multiple Tour de France victories.
Really?
We started seeing them competing at the global level for the Olympics and so forth. But it was that same mentality of marginal gains. I'm going to just be 1% better in every single day, in every little spot that I can. And it winds up, it's, as you said, it multiplies and it grows.
I mean, something as small as getting the right nutrient that you've been missing can be such a difference maker, right? Like at the elite level, guys like Usain Bolt, Tyson Gay, when they were competing in the sprinting, like beetroot powder, right? Is that something that could make or break the difference between first and second place, microseconds of time, right? Just having that extra, red blood cell count or, more whatever, can be a difference maker, right? And so it's just about being consistent and trying to piece together the pieces of that puzzle that you're trying to build to create what is your overall health and wellness, but also your mental health and all those types of things, right? You got to kind of piece everything together. If one part's missing, everything else is going to be just a little bit slower. And so if we can find all those little things, and figure out what are those tiny little changes we can make that are going to make the difference, people are going to be a lot better off.
For sure. Yeah. And as you said, as you become a professional athlete, the margins of error get smaller and smaller and smaller. For us mere mortals, making
Right.
almost any change winds up helping in a big way when you're making the right type of change.
Yeah.
Right. Like just going out for a walk every day or finding 20 minutes to do some sort of activity, some sort of movement, some sort of workout for the day. That makes a huge impact for you. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much.
Like you guys will see this online soon, but I took a pretty gnarly tumble in my workout on Tuesday. I was doing box jumps and fell from about 5.5, 6 feet up, right onto my back and shoulder. Pretty gnarly, but over the 2 days following, right, I'm like, well, I can't lift weights. Like I'm pretty wide. I'm pretty much good to go now. I cannot believe it. Like once I show you this video, you won't believe that I'm actually okay. It's unbelievable. But over the last couple of days, I've just been like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I can do. Right. I'm going to hop on a treadmill, go for a walk. I'm going to, take some bands and do some shoulder strengthening exercises because my shoulder was hurting. Just do what I can do that doesn't cause any pain, doesn't, create too much tension. Right. Exactly. That's funny. And just doing stuff like that over the last couple of days. And what do you know? It's Friday, it's Saturday, and I feel great. I feel like no accident even happened, right? Like I've trained, yesterday I trained pretty much full as though nothing was wrong. And the previous 2 days, I feel like if I just sat around and felt sorry for myself, I'd probably still be feeling like dirt today, but I made sure to get my protein for that day. I slept as much as I could. I, tried to strengthen the areas that were bothering me and make sure I kept moving. And my body's rewarding me for that by healing quickly, by making sure that it's ready for the next task that I ask it to do.
Yeah. It's building muscle and building strength is a very protective thing for your body.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to the physical therapists that work at the facility that I train at, and he literally said, he's like, I guarantee you, Wolf's Law, dude, like you're like an object that you're putting under stress, or you're, specifically like muscles and bones, right, are going
Hmm.
to adapt to the stress that you're putting on it. Right. And if you don't
Hmm.
put yourself through any stress or ever put yourself through any type of challenging thing for your body's not going to adapt. Right. So, it
Hmm.
doesn't take, the craziest workout you've ever had, but, eventually, eventually walking is just, a calorie burn. You're not going to build muscle, right? Unless you're throwing that weight on or something like that. You need some type of resistance to force your body to make change. And whether that resistance is your body weight, or you can work up to something a little bit more than that. But if I hadn't been strength training over these last many, many years, I have no idea how that fall would have gone. I'm sure I would have broken my hip. I'm sure I would have torn my shoulder. I'm
Yeah.
sure I would not be walking around and ready to go right now. But because I've prepped my body and primed my body for not really that, I mean, I guess rugby over many years can kind of prime and prep you for something like that. But that fall,
Yeah.
right, if I wasn't at least as strong as I am, right, like I don't think it would have gone. I anticipated it go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to show you guys right here on this video. I'm going to show you what happened. You're going to
There we
laugh.
go.
Actually, you might not laugh. You might say, "Oh," but all right, check this out. Let's see.
Oh,
Right onto my hip. Right.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, you can't, obviously, like, we're looking at about 55 inches there. Wow, right onto my hip right there. We'll release the
yeah.
audio soon too, because it was pretty funny. There was a kid in there, a little kid that was like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, it was gnarly. I laid there for a good couple of minutes, slowly got to my feet, and sat in a chair for 30 minutes until I felt like I wasn't going to die.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you came out relatively unscathed. So
Yeah,
that's a
dude. Can't
a
I
good
can't
thing.
believe it. I cannot believe I am not hurting so worse than I am right now. It was a pretty gnarly fall. First one I've had in many, many years.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. So the last thing, just to I guess I want to throw out there a teaser. So we're working on our summer challenge, and working on trying to finalize some details on how that will work. And we're hoping to get that out here relatively soon. We want to give people the opportunity to get registered and get ready to go and to be able to prepare. So keep an eye out. We'll be
Yes, sir.
throwing that all over social media. It'll be on our website. But that'll be our first official challenge for when we post that summer challenge. So we're gonna come up with some cool swag for that event as well. So, and it's a virtual challenge, so anyone in the world can compete, or well, not really compete, can participate. um, and more details to come here soon, but just want to make sure we make that plug.
Yeah, and eventually maybe we'll get to some competitive stuff. But at first, let's try to get people outside and just get everybody involved. And come to some of the events that we're hosting soon as well, right? Like if you're around my neck of the woods this weekend, if you see this by then, I don't know if you will, but come out to any of the stuff that we got. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me personally. You can find my information, somewhere on the page below this, or we'll find a
We'll
way
get
to
it
get us in
posted.
contact
Yeah.
for sure. But or also if you're in the Northeast as well, get out and feel free to reach out to us if you want to have an event somewhere, or a place that needs to be cleaned up or something like that. We would love to coordinate something like that. So don't be afraid to reach out to us with any questions, or if you want to host your own thing.
Yeah, we're happy to be a part of helping connect more folks with the outdoors. That's really our mission here.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps up episode number 2. Hope to see everyone catching us online someplace. And again, leave us some comments, leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we want to hear what you got to say, people. We want this community to build. We want to know more about you. We want to hear more about y'all. So feel free, get at us. We don't bite. We're happy to be part of this, and just thankful to be in a position to be able to do this.
Absolutely. Awesome. Take care.
All right, brother.